Trucking and oil companies are ramping up warnings on the current diesel shortage situation, ultimately describing the suicidal death sentence for businesses and our economy as a self-inflicted injury, and that we put ourselves here in this situation. So suppliers are blaming the sky-high diesel prices on supply chain shortages and red tape. These are impacting prices at the pump. And to make matters worse, President Biden is trying to point all the blame at oil companies, accusing them of hiking prices to fatten up their profit margins. Think of it as the Brazilian butt lift of business operations, except instead of a surgeon injecting fatty tissue or silicone prosthetics into somebody's behind, the oil and gas companies are transforming their balance sheets post-op and looking all thick after altering all the prices at the Buc-ee's, racetracks, Parker's, and QT pumps worldwide. And obviously, none of that is even close to being believable. Adversely, critics have shot back at the Biden administration and have accused them of hampering American energy production and suffocating refinery production. South Carolina Trucking Association CEO Rick Todd told Fox News that we need to invest in U.S. energy, even as the progressive continue to plow forward with the green energy agenda nonsense. He said, we should, as a country, take a longer term view and do everything we can and put everything on the table. And also said, but in the meantime, we need to stick with what works until you can replace it. And then make sure that when you do replace it, that it's scalable. Like folks working jobs and grinding away in their 9-to-5s. Perhaps one day you decide to say F this and quit, or maybe you find yourself mixed in with the unfortunate bunch of next round of mass layoffs. But either way, you want to make damn well sure that your next move is your best move, and you have a solid plan that is sustainable and scalable. Take me, for example. I quit my job back in 2017 and walked away from a pretty handsome 6-figure salary, mainly because I was tired of all the bullshit, but also because I had a vision, I had a plan, several at that, of proven concepts that would not only replace my income, but also, most importantly, increase my income, while continuously regaining more of what mattered most to me, my time. Oh, and these were all scalable business models that continue to provide passive income returns and direct deposits for me every single week. So Fox News reconfirms what we have all been saying all along. Nobody wants to be force-fed any alternative technologies or anything until they're done. Keep the beta test versions in-house. Work out all the kinks and then roll out the final product. We don't have time to be guinea pigs testing prototypes. Well, at least not when it comes to technology and energy production. No, this shit is serious. If you want to test out something on millions and millions of Americans, well, I tell you what, put that shit in a small vial, tell folks to get a jab or else, and get a little card to prove it, and then make them do it 2, 3, or even 4 times in order to fly on an airplane, enjoy a shitty Disney cruise, or even worse, live in New York. So experts worry that the diesel shortage, which is the worst it has been in decades, will worsen already sky-high consumer prices as suppliers are forced to pass down the costs. And Rick Todd is blaming bad policies, seasonal demand ahead of the treacherous holiday season, and the country's refining capacity for these soaring energy costs. Do you think Fauci knew that our entire world would be turned upside down and become this bad and to this degree when he was manipulating viruses and illnesses in the lab in Wuhan and attempting to achieve gain of function of the Omicron variant back in 2020? So data released last week showed the U.S. has only 25 days of heating and trucking stockpile reserves left. And this is not a good sign heading into winter. And it's definitely not a good sign for businesses in our economy. There is literally no way any company, especially smaller companies or larger companies for that matter, that operate heavily on debt are experiencing higher interest rates and a reduction in sales revenue and ultimately lower profits on probably what was already skinny single-digit profit margins to begin with, perhaps thinking that there was a glimmer of hope, a light at the end of the tunnel, and perhaps they could come up for air amid this business suffocating supply chain nightmare, only to realize that nope, they are not safe, and they never will be ever again, really, not in the normal sense. For these companies and businesses to stay in business, they will have to pass along the costs to the consumer, or they won't stay in business for very long. So the larger fleets are a little bit better positioned to deal with these kinds of conditions, but the smaller fleets, well, like 91% of the nation's truck fleet, these companies have only about 6 or so trucks, maybe fewer. These problems are going to land on the doorsteps of the Main Street type businesses, and it's a huge strain on them to be able to keep up with these costs. And although they can try to pass them on, there's no way they will be able to do it 100%. So Mansfield Energy mentioned that the supply chain shortages and the regulations are huge barriers to lower prices for consumers. Mansfield said, there's simply a shortage of product there as compared to 3 years ago. And the economy has come back a great deal since the pandemic. But refining capacity in the United States is about a little over 1 million barrels a day of less capacity than we have had in the past. Noting that there have been several refineries shut down, the ones that were caught on fire. And the grim fact of the matter is that these refineries will not come back online, and the product is just not available as it once was before President Biden took office. So we have to import more or just simply pay higher prices while we still can. So that's it. Simple solution. Hey, America, just pay more. All right. So Mansfield's response to the president and others who aren't quite sure how this all works was they think there's a lot of misinformation about how this industry works and where profits are created or not created, noting that they do think this is all very worrisome, but they think it would be helpful to pay more attention to the actual supply-demand dynamics and less about the politics. So here's exactly what is going to happen next. Heating and utility costs are going to go up. More inflation and price fixing is going to happen. Higher transportation costs, delays, further delays, more delays, destruction of the auto industry, and the end of diesel truck sales as we know it. Ram, I'm talking to you. Increased tensions in holding the American people hostage as politicians toy with the lives of millions in order to get their way and serve their own agendas. More layoffs as operating costs and transportation costs create further stress for already weakened businesses trying to balance higher prices and inflated inputs and higher interest rates, with consumers already critically damaged by the pain of the recession and the further pain put on them by Fed Chair Jerome Powell. And a continuous pissing match between left and right, and Congress holding out in hopes of lawmakers getting their way in the upcoming midterm elections, possibly. So Biden has faced scrutiny in recent months for shifting the blame for the spike in prices at the pump. He's a habitual blame shifter, and pretty much about the only thing that he's really good at doing. And namely, he has pinpointed Putin's war on Ukraine and the OPEC decision to cut oil production as the top causes for our fuel reserve problems. And to be honest, if we don't reach a resolution quickly, then we will have no choice but to tap into American energy production so the nation doesn't run out and have to turn to foreign adversaries for its key energy needs. And you want to talk about high gas and diesel and heating fuel prices? You ain't seen nothing yet. I'm talking about giraffe booty high. I'm talking about damn near SpaceX outer atmosphere high. And even then, the doomsday clock will be ticking away at a much higher rate of speed that I don't think any of us are truly prepared for. Social unrest, mass craze and hysteria, hyperinflation, total economic collapse. In the meantime, American consumers will continue to get bent over. Think of it like Lil Nas X on a Friday night. As the CEO of Garner Trucking Inc. explained, they are feeling the pinch on higher diesel prices, and unfortunately, their customers are the ones that will experience it too. Also saying that they have unfortunately had to put more money in fuel tanks as opposed to paychecks. How does that make you feel? As they pass on the higher prices and operational freight costs to their customers, a trucking company started by her parents decades ago that endured their own challenges of the 70s with embargoes and such, but are now saying that what they are experiencing and feeling now, they have never seen before. President and CEO of the trucking company said it's a pass on in part to consumers mostly, and they haul anything from water to tires to all sorts of goods on their trucks. And that cost is going to go directly into those goods and hit shoppers at the self-checkouts and online carts, continuing to drain their wallets, their savings, their paychecks, their income, and max out their credit cards to the limits.